Hi, everybody. We're live here with T. Desseyn and Sloan Bartley. This is a special session. Normally, my podcasts are on Thursday, but we had some technical difficulties last time we tried to go live. So the world did not want us together. It's too much power in one place.
That was crazy. That was nuts.
You had construction, I think, if I remember correctly. My internet went out. So we just had all the elements going against us.
We did. Yeah, it was father-in-law was working on the office, which I moved into now. And then your internet died and I wrapped up your own show.
And I loved that. I loved the professional, that's when you have a true professional on your show, is someone who can wrap it up for you, plug your podcast, plug your company, and be like, okay, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, exactly.
I have since bought a new modem and internet booster and all this good stuff. So we should be good. I've made an investment, even more so than I was already paying my internet provider on a monthly basis. So should be better. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Taylor is here to talk about community building. We might repeat some of the questions we asked last time just to have everything all in one place, but we just wanted to come back and continue this conversation because it was a good one. We had a lot of fruitful things come out last time we were speaking. And so we wanted to finish that and just get to hang some more and just do a sort of an ad hoc live session for anybody that is, following either one of us. This is just an extra bonus episode. I do want to, shout out the places that we both work. You are free to shout out Gun.io and your talent collective for developers. I am a staffing agency with Spyglass Partners. So I support hiring managers who are adding talent to their team. But also supporting folks who are on the job hunt. So if you fall into any of those categories, reach out to us. We're happy to help however we can.
Yeah. I think, the more I'm kind of get into the talent marketplace space and kind of what we're doing at Gun, the more like we were in the same vein of like talent, but like it's very different. Right. And what I tell people is I think the best way to what up, Richie? I think when you're on the job search right now, you have to leverage as many tools as possible, right? So you need to know Richie, you need to know Sloan, you need to know me, and I think like that's the way to approach it. And I think a lot of people just don't know what talent marketplaces are. And so I didn't know
until neither one of us.
Right. Yeah. But essentially the biggest difference is like talent marketplaces, I guess the way to say it is like it's more inbound, right? So like if you're a developer, you sign up and then you're in our platform, and then like good or bad, you're kind of at the mercy with what we have. If you're on the staffing side, like it's a little bit more outbound. Kate, it's good to see you, girl.
Katie,
and so again, I think definitely check out both. I love the crew at Spyglass, interact with a lot of them, used to work with a lot of them. And so highly recommend. And then, like I said, even Gun.io with our latest tool release, we technically Spyglass could be a client of ours, right? Like they could legitimately just
potentially.
Because we basically rolled out a version of LinkedIn Recruiter. So
so I might have you talk more about that because I just wasn't familiar with that until you came to work at Gun. And to me, my understanding, I wasn't familiar with that and it sounds like it's a community for devs where once they sign up with you guys bring in job opportunities and they would have access to those, correct? And do they?
Yeah. It's I would say it's like working with a recruiting firm without recruiters. We have salespeople.
Cut us out.
Yeah. You use our platform. We've opened up our job postings to where it's public. It used to not be public because we wanted to curate it, but we realized that we were probably missing out on people. So yeah, it's this whole kind of community and basically, my role is it's really a community-led organization. I really, when it comes down to it. So, it's cool. Check us out, Gun.io. We have a bunch of resources. We actually just rolled out a pretty cool feature. You'll be happy for this or proud of this.
No, I think you talked about this maybe or started to highlight it last time. So yeah, tell us what it is.
Well, we rolled out a pricing feature, which is new. I don't think it was even that. We've rolled out a bunch of features lately.
There was something else. There was something else.
Yeah, we've rolled out an AI feature where you can copy and paste your job descriptions, which that's pretty cool. And then it matches with all of our talent. But you got to have good job descriptions. That's the key.
Yeah.
And then we have
It's asking
that.
too much, Taylor.
Yep, I know.
Too
I'm asking
much.
too much. We have our Discover Talent platform, which is essentially like the LinkedIn Recruiter clone. And then we just rolled out another feature where if you're a developer or a hiring manager, we have a tool that basically APIs into Carta, which is like a database of all salaries and stuff. And
Okay.
you can check if your salary is in line with your area, which is really
Ooh.
cool because a lot of developers don't know how much they should charge, or maybe if they're not charging enough. So based off the information
And are
you
you talking
plug
about a
in,
contracting rate, like my hourly rate for like
or
a
salary, because
construction
we do, I
project,
mean,
or
we
salaries
obviously do.
too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like what we do, and then if you're a hiring manager, we pull that
You can
data for
see,
you too.
right? Okay. And you could also
Yeah,
say, wow, I'm underpaying, and
exactly.
maybe do
So
something about it.
really cool feature we just rolled
See,
out. I'm going to create some more content around that over the next few weeks, but I think that's a really cool tool that we just
it
rolled out.
is. Chris, thanks for joining us. This is why
What
we're
up,
having another
Chris?
show.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think this is a perfect segue because you're talking about the platform that you guys have that, builds community. And there is, for job seekers, there is a community of recruiters. I know you've done a good job of networking, not just with the job seekers that you want to support, but with other recruiters that you
Yep.
know and trust and can
Yep.
recommend. And so that's the power of connecting with somebody who, like yourself, has built a community. So I think the first question I asked you on our first episode, and I'll ask it again, is when did you first know that there was a need to approach recruiting and staffing differently with sort of community in mind?
I mean, it probably was near COVID. I started to get, so I recruited pretty heads down, like traditional heads down recruiting for up until COVID. So
11
9 years.
years? 9 years.
So 2011, 2020, it was very much heads down. I would say from 2011 until 2018 was very heads down. I started to kind of pick my head up a little bit in 2018 and 2020 to kind of get a little bit more community related, but like I was really good. I mean, Sloan and I have talked about this off air, was really good at the nuts and bolts and the grinding of what recruiting is, and what Sloan does really, really well too. And Sloan, it's been awesome watching you more of your career too. It's been awesome. And so I basically I started to get very disenchanted with the way the recruiting industry operated in terms of outreach, right? Because it was like every cold emails, cold calls, cold DMs. Please work with me. I promise I'm different. Yada 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 yada. And I was just like, I was so tired of this. And so I was like, you know what? I want to kind of dive into this content route because I feel like it's the perfect way for people to want to use me. And so basically dove into that when COVID hit March 2020, because at the time I was recruiting primarily in Nashville. And then we quickly saw the world was becoming very remote, like overnight. Right. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into kind of this content community building. They both kind of work hand in hand, and we can talk more about that if you want. But basically dove into that in 2020 and really haven't looked back since.
Yeah. I think there's two different things that I want to talk about when it comes to content and community building. There seems to be, I'm sure there's multiple benefits, but two primary ones that I see that are worth the investment. One, of course, it can drive business. You are connecting with candidates, but you're also connecting with people who want to leverage your services to help them hire for that team, whether that was when you were working for a traditional staffing agency or now that you're working with a talent marketplace. It benefits you to have your name out there and to have a reputation that is backed by your content and the network you've created online. The other benefit, I think, is, the connections you make with people, and they're genuine and authentic. And, I do have a question here at some point, but I do want to just point out that the way you build, and maybe this will be the question, but the way you build connection and the way you build content is different than anybody else I see out there for the most part. I can tell, and I know from personally knowing you well, like you aren't sitting back perfectly crafting a post and grammar checking it and spelling. These are your raw thoughts. Like, have a thought, type it, post it. Have a thought, type it, post it. Comment, thought, post it. This is just you. This is Taylor. And I think content creators get a really bad rap for like being perfectly curated and it being fake or you're just inauthentic. And I think you're truly your authentic self on there. On your vlogs, we see you going into the bathroom. We see you walking your dog and picking up his poop. Like, these are the things that you're just a human. Like, how did you decide that that was the approach that you wanted to have?
I realized after talking, I mean, I think what makes people a good content creators. So I had a call with a startup out in Austin. They're hiring a head of content for their company in the sports betting space. And so I talked with the founder of what a really, because he wanted to hire, basically he said, I want to hire a clone of you just in the sports betting space. Um, and one thing that I realized early on, and I told this guy too, is he needs to be a listener and know the industry inside and out, right? Like I would never be good in a betting head of content position because I don't know the betting
You
space.
don't know
Like
the betting space.
I've never even put any bets. I don't bet.
I never even
Like
made a bet.
my only thing I've ever done is fantasy football, and I'm doing fantasy F1, right? That's it. Like
Yeah.
I don't do any bets. And so like you got to know the industry. I think there's been different trends since I've been doing this over the last few years. The one trend I think that's been consistent through everything is if you create content, especially in a corporate environment, the more raw and uncensored and real you can get, the better. And I know that is not comfortable for a lot of corporations. Now,
I was going to say that's the biggest barrier for a lot of people. Is I have a lot of podcast guests that can't share where they work.
Right, exactly.
Like that will create way too much red tape. So I'm just going to come on as myself.
Correct. And I would tell companies now, I think you got to, like, I'm going to say this, like, this was my old boss at Vaco used to say, like, you're not that important, right? Not everything's about you and not everything hinges on what you do or say. And I think that's that way with content. And what I've realized, like, is that I've been able to build such a great community because I'm myself and real, right? Like I curse and my grammar is not great. You can attest after working together, my attention to detail is terrible. Right. And so it's like, but the thing is that like, I think people are desperate for that now more than ever, because the second trend that I've started to see is, so I went to Render this past week. Right. And the one thing that was commented the most, right. Not my podcast, not my interviews, which help, right? That's top of the funnel. And we can talk about that too, if we want to. But the one thing I was talked about the most was my vlogs.
Okay, the daily vlog.
Like, that was the one thing consistently. Oh my gosh, like they were like, "How's the donkey?" Right? We got a mini donkey last week.
Yeah, literally. Ago,
right?
It was literally last weekend. It was.
Yeah, they're like, "How's the donkey?" Yeah, I literally posted the vlog that I got a donkey. I think on Friday, and then I was at Render on a Tuesday.
Right. It was like over the weekend you got the donkey.
And so many people were like, "How's the donkey?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. Like, yeah, not my dance moves. Definitely not my dance moves. And so basically, like. I think individuals, and what I've realized is that companies, I do think companies need a balance. I think balancing a company brand and an individual brand is different, but I still think at the end of the day, the more real and more authentic you can get and less educational you can get, the better, right? People want to resonate with like normal people. And if all you're doing from your business account is like beating people over the heads with like product updates and like educational stuff, like you're going to lose people really quickly. Like posting a meme or a GIF that is culturally relevant in the moment is going to do so much more to build your brand than posting like a clip from your webinar. And so but the problem is most companies are terrified of that. Yeah. And listen, I get it. Apple, Netflix, I get it. You probably don't have that, but pretty much anybody outside of those companies can be more relaxed and more relatable. And I think that's going to benefit them in the long run.
Yeah. How do you decide your vlog? Like, I was going to ask you, how do you decide what to post? I'm particularly curious about just your LinkedIn post, just the text. And I know you're big on Twitter too, so you tweet a lot. So this would just be written short form content. Like, how do you decide what to post, what not to post? Do you post pretty much any thought or idea that comes to mind?
So, I mean, it transitions, right? I would say, I mean, it's still at the end of the day, the majority of my content is to give back, right? Is to give people the tools to navigate their job search, to get a job and to hire better. Right. That's the basis of it. But it definitely ebbs and flows, right? A lot of my stuff lately is a little bit less educational. And so for me, it's give back, give tactical, practical pieces of information. Cause I feel like the problem with LinkedIn is a lot of people are like this, like very cloud hot, like pie in the sky, very,
Yeah.
these stories that are just weird, right? But that get a lot of likes, right? The whole like, I was on the way to an interview and my car broke down and I hit a dog and then I saved the dog and then the dog's owner was the boss that I just interviewed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh
I don't do
yeah.
that.
Great story.
Yeah. And so for me, like I had a few conversations at Render about this. Like I'm never going to be the guy to go like super viral and have a bunch of followers. Cause like I don't shit post. Like that's one of the things like on Twitter, like people like
If
to just
the more
post.
controversial you are,
Yeah. The more
the more,
controversial you can get, like
yeah,
the more
the more
followers you're
traffic
gonna
you
get.
get for
That's
sure.
just not me. Like I've had some people take some of my tweets the wrong way and run with it. And I talk about how to write a resume. And I'm like, I don't know how you kind of pulled this out of that. But so for me, it's very tactical stuff, but also like, I work in the personal stuff, right? The vlog,
Mhm.
the kid coming,
Your life.
and
Yeah.
so I think a daily dose of, I think it's definitely a mix, but at the end of the day, tactical information to help people is always best.
Yeah. You do post a lot of great content on how to make the hiring process better. And I know job seekers take your advice on how to, make their job search better, but have you ever found organizations actually taking and implementing your advice as hiring managers? Because that's something that I'm equally as passionate about is like job seekers are for the most part doing everything they can to try and do the job hunt right. But it's the damn hiring managers and organizations. I'm like, there's something Joe could be doing better here. Like, let's eliminate the 11 interview steps. Like, let's get out of our own way. I've heard you say that before. Like, do they listen? Are they taking your advice?
I mean, from a hiring perspective, not so much. I mean, I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
frustrating thing. I mean, I know job seekers are really open to it. I think the
So open.
problem with hiring managers, and especially because so when we worked in the staff, like when I was with you in our last company, like I would say not the biggest. Our team was technical. You were technical. I was technical. We were able to vet developers pretty well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, hiring managers still were like, how do you vet your developers, right? Like, how do we know the quality's good? Well, I'm at a company now that vets developers and hiring managers don't care. I mean, like, and what I realized this is hiring managers are so stuck in their ways and want to do things the way they want to do things that they're
Right.
not really open to criticism. And that's why I always say, like, and that's why when I speak at conferences, I'm like, listen, I've helped thousands of developers and probably hundreds of companies scale up. And I would say the companies that actually listen to me are probably, I can count on two hands over 13 years.
Yeah.
And so
That's
it's
what I
like,
figured.
yeah. So
That's
like,
reassuring to me to hear that it's like it's not just,
yeah, I mean,
those
and
of us getting
especially,
started out.
yeah. And right now, like, I think companies do want to hire. I think the problem is like, there's a lot of jobs being posted. The problem is that
Carl's here.
Hey, Carl.
Hey,
But the
buddy.
problem with hiring managers is that they are using a slow process to hide the fact that I think they don't know what they're doing from like a processes
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just drag it out in hopes they can figure it out on the fly. And when it comes to hiring, like you got to be intentional on the front end and have everything laid out. And so, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's not just you. Hiring managers are, for whatever reason, are not asking for feedback from us. Like if there's a hiring manager that watches now in the future, my biggest advice is if you have a vendor you trust and you're working with them, ask them how they can improve on, or ask how you can improve your processes. Because I would bet you that your vendor's got a lot of thoughts to help you.
Yeah, for sure. We could definitely have a whole nother episode on
Oh
that.
yeah.
I know I want to get back to the community building. You've built this community from scratch through content and also through putting yourself out there at conferences and being in person when you can be, when it's not a global pandemic. So, how would you recommend if there's anybody listening who wants to get started, wants to jump into building a virtual community that also expands to, in-person connections? What do you recommend doing to get started?
Yeah. So I think with me, it's going to take time. And I think this is the problem that most companies can't stomach, right? Which again, shout out to Gun.io for believing in this and taking a chance on me and kind of this strategy. But like, this is not done overnight. I mean, it's taken me 4 years to build where I'm at. Now,
Right.
I think there's ways to throw gas like on the fire per se. Like you can run ads, you can raise more awareness quicker. All of my stuff is organic, right? So I've never run one ad. That's false. I've actually like I've ran like 1 or 2 ads back in the day. If they come, they didn't do anything. So like I stopped. But like at the end of the day, like this takes time. But I will tell you this, what's really cool, and especially over the last year seeing it, once you can get this thing going, it's incredibly powerful. Like it is incredibly powerful. But it just, like I said, it just takes time. It takes a lot of time.
What do you mean by powerful? Like walk us through what that looks like for those of us that don't have it yet. What are you experiencing?
Well, I mean, when I started my content community journey, like I started just go live on LinkedIn like this every day, and like nobody would show up, and like
how did you keep doing that? Because like that is my big.
Because
I'm like, I can't do that.
You got to believe in what you're doing. Like so many people have asked me, right? They're, I had this conversation at Render with some of my few friends, the really close friends, and a lot of people have asked me, like, why haven't you gone back into traditional staffing? Because I've talked about making less money, and a lot of it's just the market and where it's at. I mean, I've kind of siloed myself in engineering, and the one industry that's just getting absolutely kicked right now is the engineering space. But for me, they're like, well, why don't you just go back into being heads down recruiter? Because you probably make more money right now. And I'm like, well, the fact of the matter is I believe so strongly in this, especially from an engineering perspective in building this, that like, I can see what 10 years looks like. And that's like, you can basically run your entire company from the community you built. Yeah. Right. But the thing is that like, you have to have this belief to know. It's just like going to the gym, right? Why do you continue to go to the gym every single day when
you already reached your goals? You already fit. You're already fit. Why are you going? Because you have to maintain it.
So like for me, it's like I think the ongoing joke is like everybody that turns 30 that like it wants to run a marathon because they have nothing to work towards anymore from a health perspective. And for like this, it's just like you have to believe in what you're building, but it's going to take, and so many people ask me like, well, what's your goal for building community? I'm like, I don't know, just bigger and better. Right. Like, and eventually, you just kind of hit plateaus, right? Like 2 years ago, I didn't have a Discord. Now I have a Discord of 900 people in it. Right. Like that's huge. Right. But like I've talked to some companies that have a Discord of 10,000 people. So it's like, we've started, we're growing, but we're not where we need to be yet. So again, it's this thing where like if you're starting community, you have to have somebody in the place that truly believes in it, that knows the importance of it long-term. And then I think when you can get it going, I think you can basically drive a lot of revenue back to the business solely from community.
Tell us about the Discord. What is the Discord? Tell people who don't know, like, what's the benefit of that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to community and there's different, I think you need a bottom of the funnel, right? You need a place where people can go and hang out and network with other people that you've brought into the community. Discord's the most popular one right now. I think everybody building communities has it. And so like, for me, like if let's just say you're in the health and fitness community, right? You can build an entire health and fitness and wellness community in Discord talking about health tips and how to sleep better and blah, 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 blah. And then if you're a product-based company, I would not sell anything in the Discord, right? I would be helping people in the Discord. And basically then when you help them enough, then they want to buy from you. And that's the thing. I think we're in this time right now where people don't take calls. People don't take cold calls. I mean, when my mom even calls me, I don't even answer, right? But like, I mean, people just don't, people just don't talk anymore. Like people don't like phone calls. People, I mean, when was the last time that you actually answered a call you actually had to outside of family? I mean,
well, like my boss calling me, like I got to answer that.
That doesn't count. Yeah. Outside of work and family,
an unknown number.
Yeah, and so it's like, people
what gets you is when you think you have your child's doctor calling you.
Correct.
So you're like, you're waiting on the pediatrician, and you're like, now I have to answer everything spam call today.
100%.
Sucks.
But for the most part, we don't answer unknown calls, right?
They'll leave a voicemail if they need me.
Yeah, and so like you have to figure out a way to reach people, and you reach people by these live streams, and then the social media and the Discords and the email newsletters and all that stuff. Because people, I think in today's world, want to see what you're doing, want to try before you buy. And then when they believe in you and what you're doing or your community, then they look to purchase something. Right. And so again, this is a different way of thinking. If you're a traditional marketer, this is a complete mindset shift, right? And a lot of people can't innovate on it because it is such a mindset shift. And so
I think it's also
if
slow
it's
growth. Like
slow, it's such a
it's
slow
slow, and you've got
build.
to commit. And yeah, like
Yep.
you said, you've committed 4 years to it. And when do you think you started to have, business benefit? Like, did you feel like it
1 year.
1 year?
I
Okay.
tell people 1 year, it takes about 1 year of grinding before you start to see any ROI. So you have to hold your breath from a business perspective for a year. And again, I mean, that 1 year, 1 year later, I was able to hire you and we were able to scale up a team together. And so,
Yeah.
but again, like that took about a year of me posting,
Running it solo
engage,
and doing it and just showing up
everything.
every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes talking to nobody, just like, I got to
Yeah.
sit here and do this.
I would love to go find
You
I would love
should.
to find my
You
first
should
live stream 4 years ago.
repost your first live stream. You should repost it. We
Yeah.
need to see it.
Yep. So
Awesome. I know there's some folks I hope you can see the comments
I
tag. But thanks, David, for being here. Yeah,
What's up,
I'm not
David?
surprised. You made a good impression. Katie, I feel like you would probably love the Discord. I know you're looking for data science stuff.
Yep.
And then Brandon is giving you a plug for your Discord as well, which I love. What about Slack? Is that a place where you've seen community?
So it's interesting. I've had some conversations with folks in the dev community about Slack. I think Slack has you can't. It's really hard to build a community in Slack because the way Slack's permissions are is like, if you're on the free tier, you can only see so much history. So if you're adding people, they can't really see all the content to engage with. They only see the recent stuff.
And Discord is free forever. Like,
Discord's free. There's
awesome.
ways. There's ways you can level up in Discord. And again, I'm a Discord noob. I need to take a class on Discord because I feel like there's so much more we could do with it. But Slack, I think, is more of just an internal messaging tool. We had our community on Slack, and we still do for Gun. The Gun Slack channel is just for the people who are on our platform who are accepted. The Discord is for anybody and everybody who wants to. And that was a decision by me. I was like, we need to get off of Slack. We need to have a public facing Discord to again help. Obviously,
the entry point funnel for sure.
The entry point. So I would not recommend Slack, but also if you're like, watch this now in the future, like, oh shit, Taylor said, we can't have Slack. We need to go Discord. If you have a community on Slack and it's working,
it's working.
Yeah. Like I'm not, it's whatever works, but like there, some people
I can
like,
see where if Discord's free, I mean, that just seems like a great entry point, low cost accessibility, all those good things. So
and I think with the world being remote now, I think you really genuinely need some sort of a virtual channel, and you need to be involved in a virtual channel.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I'm keeping an eye on time. I have 2 more questions. We'll see if we get to both of them.
Let's do it.
How do you change up your approach for in-person versus virtual community building? Because I know you do both.
So virtual, I'm going to try to answer this question, make sure I'm answering it correctly. So virtual stuff I do is always commenting, always engaging, always online, asking questions, engaging audiences. In-person content is a little bit more like bottom of the funnel. When I say bottom of the funnel, again, more like just me, right? Like I don't promote really anything of myself in the Discords. I'm always asking questions and getting other people to engage and commenting and yada, yada, yada. But the in-person stuff, like at Render this last week, it's all about me, right? Pictures, videos, because I think like I watch my behavior with other creators online. And it's like I get into other creators' ecosystems because of the content they're putting out virtually, but then I want to see more of them. Right. So like they reach me by giving away information. So I'm like, oh shit, this person knows what they're doing. I like them. And then I want to be able to follow them and keep up with them because they've given back information. And so that's what I'm saying. Like company brands and individual brands, there are nuances, but at the end of the day, like if a company follows your brand, the bottom of the funnel is the conversion to the sell, right? If the individual brands, the top of the funnel is getting people in your ecosystem, and then the bottom of the funnel is them following your individual personal accounts and make it more about you. And so that's the biggest difference. Like I'm not at Render giving out tips on how to find a job. I'm out there just talking about me and what I'm doing.
Okay. I love that. That was a really helpful breakdown. All right. I think we have time for the last question. I just want to know what's been the most rewarding part of your community builder journey so far.
The most rewarding part, I mean, I would say just being able to do this and continue to get people jobs and build relationships the right way. You know, I mean, I was at a dinner at Render the last time. I was like 18 people, and almost all 18 people were either senior staff engineers or engineering leaders at companies. You know, Microsoft, GitHub, and a few other people or a few other companies, big tech companies. And it's just me hanging out with them. Right. And so it's like, it's one of these things where I think the most rewarding thing, it's allowed me to be completely accepted and ingrained in the engineering community without ever being an engineer.
Right.
And I would say
Right.
being a recruiter or was a recruiter, still I'm always a recruiter, but less of a traditional recruiter now, like being at those seats now and being at those dinners means the world to me because again, I mean, I remember starting my recruiting journey out and, you know, just trying to show up to a meetup and knowing people, now going to a 5,000 person event and knowing almost not almost everybody. I mean, at least 50% of the people in the hallways. I mean, that's
right. Just feeling known and feeling like, you know, people and feeling connected. It's that sense of belonging. Like I belong here. Like I think when you probably, I mean, I relate to this since I started my recruiting journey much more recently. You know, when you first start out, you just feel like an imposter. You don't feel like you belong.
Oh, yeah,
I think
100%.
especially when you're doing tech recruiting or recruiting devs, because it's such a highly specialized skill set that you train for either at school or in a boot camp. And it's like, I didn't do that. I didn't get a computer science degree. I didn't go to boot camp. So what the heck do I know? Like, what do I? And so, yeah, I can imagine being there at that dinner. It's incredibly rewarding to feel like you've been welcomed into the community. That's
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tay, for coming on here for a part 2. It's always wonderful to chat with you and catch up. Hopefully I get to see you before baby number 2 gets here. It could be any day now.
Any day.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for tuning in. It's good to hear from all of y'all. Keep chatting. See you next time.
Peace.